There we go. Should be fine. Okay. 3 minutes out. 3 minutes until we're live. Yep. And there we go. Wow, what a stormy day. Whew. Stormy indeed. Oh boy. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, 2 minutes. 2 minutes, everybody. Yep. Here we go. Very stormy day, to say the very least. I can't believe the storm this entire week. Um, if you're off this week on vacation, well, there's there's a lot of Netflix to catch up on, or unless if people still want to go and buy a book. A lot of people are not reading anymore. They just like to watch video. I don't know what to tell you. I didn't say I'm not encouraging it. I'm just telling you what's happening. But it's not a beach day. Put it that way. Not a beach day. Not a real beach day. You don't need the sunblock today. Nope. Not today. You don't need the sunblock. I think you could do without it. Okay, we are live in 1 minute. There she is. Look at my friend step up. She is so fantastic, Stephanie. There you are. I love reading your posts, by the way. You're dynamite. All right, folks, here we go. Who said live in 1 minute? I actually just did. As a matter of fact. Yep. Listen to that rain. Yep. And we're going to bring you the latest. Boy, the turmoil continue at 12:06 on my goodness, what a stormy Tuesday. Yesterday at this time, we were saying, perfect weather and everything else. Folks, instead, not only is it stormy today, as you know, the chosen one, I don't like to be the bearer of bad news. And this is the real news at noon. You're listening to the John DePetro Show. It's AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, you can also listen online at our website. Many people do. Comes in crystal clear audio, depetro.com. And then you can watch the real news at noon on our Facebook page, John DePetro Show, on X, formerly Twitter, and then also on YouTube. So obviously big news today. Talk about that. I think the weather, though, can't be ignored because of some of the ramifications. I'm going to tell you some of the ramifications involving the weather, and especially in the Rhode Island area in just a moment. Folks, excuse me, this portion of the program, there's nothing like locally sourced vegetables, sweet corn, native tomatoes, PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Listen, see for yourself why I believe that they are the number one top nursery garden center in the area, 3688 Quaker Lane, right off of Route 4. You're coming back from the beach, boom, you're popping in there. And they have annuals, perennials, trees, shrubs, hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets. Great service. Steve and Debbie, Junior, Byron, PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Hanging impatiens, pansy, marigold bags, large selection, beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs, tropical mandevillas, hibiscus plants. They have it all, but especially if you enjoy, which I would imagine most people do, locally sourced vegetables, sweet corn, especially the native tomatoes are the best. It's 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown, PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, folks, as you know, I mentioned the website where you can reach me that way. You can also read we post a lot of our videos and stories. It's a happening at the website, depetro.com, brought to you by the Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. Remember, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They're waiting for you at the Cohasset Inn. They also have the market at Cohasset now, which is also great, and it's right there. As you come into the Cohasset Inn, the market at Cohasset's right there on the left inside the restaurant. And also remember, they can host large gatherings. They can host a good number of people at the Cohasset Inn. All right. I first want to, and I'm going to talk about, because this is going to be significant, and I'm convinced the rest of the media is not going to really dig into it the way they should. It's certainly not the radio station down the dial. But folks, you can't ignore that. Now, right now you have heavy rain. Okay, so it's not supposed to last. Then it's going to break off in the afternoon. But here's my concern. When you look at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're talking about if you're seeing some of the rain that's going on down south. Here's what we know that under the best of conditions, there's so much incompetence. The state can't handle 2 inches of rain. So when you're talking about potentially heavy rain moving into our area for the weekend, I now, as much as the rest of the media are going to ignore them, but I think of the people 195. No one has been fired. No one's been held accountable. McKee he denies that it's going on. He tries to buy everyone off. As you know, he got a tourism grant, or I don't know what the hell they're calling it, but he spread it around to some of the local media to try to get them to beg off some of the problems. But as I have told you, and I experienced this firsthand, you're not just talking about 195. Last Saturday, it was beautiful out. There wasn't a cloud. I'm coming up 95 suddenly. Now, I was going to Federal Hill, Don Jose's Tequila. I was heading there. And all of a sudden, as soon as I hit the Cranston line, where then you're, right coming up to, on the right is Roger Williams Park. They put all the animals right next to the highway because I'm sure they enjoy that. Reminds them of the sounds of the jungle. But the traffic was all backed up. But I knew it's because it's backed up because 195 was all backed up. What do? I stay in the high-speed lane. You wait. Eventually, where does it? It breaks free right at Point Street. And all the traffic, the 195. This is crazy what we're going to experience, and it shouldn't be like that. And I know different people that visit from out of state, listeners that sometimes come back, and there's a number of different individuals who they've lived in Rhode Island, and then they come back and visit mostly in the summertime, but they will shoot me a message, like, hey, I'm back into, again, I don't get into a big thing. You could listen all the time. But anyhow, and then the top thing is always like, what is with the traffic? And that no one's talking about it. It's one of those things. It can't be ignored. But when I hear potentially 3 days of rain, and if you look at what's going on down south with that storm, I know that it's a storm. I know that. And I know it's remnants of a hurricane. But the fact of the matter is the infrastructure that McGreed has set up where and I want to repeat, there's no accountability with this guy. None. I can't, every time I think he can't get any worse, he surprises me. He actually does get worse. What do they do all day? What do they do all day? Governor McGreed with this whole, we're going to focus on education. The state took over the Providence schools. The scores are worse. I didn't think that was possible. They're worse. No, they're not improving anything. McKee's saying, we're going to have kids reading on a Saturday. And listen, if you don't have people going to school, if the principals don't have control of the school, If you keep bad teachers, what's the expression in AA? Nothing changes if nothing changes. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. This is crazy. There's no leadership. I don't see anyone demonstrating any leadership. Right now in our area, there's a void. There's an opening there. I don't know if anyone's going to step up, but right now, what you don't have, and believe me, I hear, even though it's summertime, the State House, the McKee staff, morale is bad, and the governor's he's angry at everyone because his approval ratings are so terrible. McKee, his approval ratings are 19%. 19%. 81% of the population in the East Bay knows he's doing a lousy job. So what does he do about it? Does he say we have to change things up? No, he continues to just complain that the people in the East Bay are a bunch of ingrates, and then he's less likely to help them. Justin Katz, who we talk to every once a week with politics this week, he brought up a great point. And that was, we were talking about in East Providence. Now, last week, the state, 300 jobs pulled out of the state. Now, again, I'm not saying it's 3,000, but 300, and those are 300 that are not going to be replaced. There's no company coming in after that. And Justin actually raised a really good point, where it was I was saying the mayor of East Providence, Mayor De Silva, McKee Lackey, unfortunately, he was saying, well, all the people that are affected, we're going to try to help them find a new job. And Justin made a really good point, and that is, notice they don't say we're going to change the way we do business. So a company like that's leaving East Providence and bringing with them close to 300 jobs, the company is consolidating things into New Jersey. And Justin raises a good point, and that is that notice you don't hear McKee or the mayor of East Providence say, we're going to change the way we do things. So the company would be more inclined to consolidate and move the New Jersey operation to East Providence instead of the other way around. They don't even attempt anything like that. They don't even, what's kind of funny is they don't even try anymore. I mean, there was a time where someone would have said, well, we're going to try to match they don't even try to do that anymore. That's how much the white flag, the whole thing of the white flag surrender, the white flag is permanently waving. And it's also it's like a vampire with the X, the cross. The state is completely closed to private business. And this is, it could be a success story for the right person, because I am telling you that this guy is single-handedly he is in over his head. The housing situation is embarrassing. You know what? I wanted, before I mention and we are going to talk about what's going on with the Harris pick. So, which I think is an interesting pick, as a matter of fact, and I want to touch on that. But before I do, the housing situation, do you know that Rhode Island, they have made it impossible to develop new housing because of all their. See, here's the thing about Governor McKee is it is the ultimate Peter principle. It's actually, in many ways, it's him, but it's not him. I believe the Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, I believe he's actually doing the best he can. What's frightening is he's doing the best that he can. That's the problem. That's the problem. He is the ultimate car that can't go above 40 miles an hour. And then he's got, foot to the floor, pedal to the metal, but he can't go faster than 40 miles an hour. So I believe when he says we are working as hard as possible and doing the best job we can, I believe them. I believe him, I should say. But it's not, it's so underperforming of what it could be, There's just, you don't see any leadership. I see a void of leadership. And even the Democrat party, the fact that they have infighting with that Senate president. We talked about it with Justin Katz, Politics This Week, that Ruggiero, I mean, the guy's out for months at a time, and the Republicans in the state Senate don't even say anything about it. I assure you, if you had a Republican in charge, let's just be realistic here, and they were out for a week, they'd be having press conferences and rallies, and they got to go, and he or she is not up to the job. But Ruggiero, he couldn't even attend his own fundraiser within the last 2 weeks. That's how bad his health is. It is like a Biden situation. But yet there he is, the head of the Senate, holding on strong. So, I mean, between him and McGreed, I don't see anyone stepping up. I don't see anyone stepping up for the business community. That's for sure. Folks, this portion of our program brought to you by Propane Plus. Remember, for all your propane needs, heating or cooling, give them a call today in Rhode Island at 401-885-4209, in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus, heating and cooling, 3 generations. Remember, visit their website. It's propaneplus.com, and then you just type in your zip code, residential or commercial. You can depend on Propane Plus. Give them a call today, 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, you're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380, 99.9 FM. This is the Real News at Noon. You can listen online and then some of our other platforms. Wait a minute. Before I tell the next thing, I did want to, let's see. Dennis contacted me and said, Juan, love the program. I'm thinking of having some work done in my home. Who is the company you recommend? Dennis, call AJ Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. They can do anything. Frame to finish basements, acoustical ceilings, new homes, additions, commercial rehabs, painting, remodeling. They do it all. AJ Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. And again, look for them on Facebook. All right. So there's a couple of things that are happening. Obviously, I want to just see the headlines on the Harris pick. How about that? Harris picks the Minnesota governor's running mate. Looks to boost ticket in the Midwest. Military veteran, former public school teacher, rural appeal, everybody's favorite uncle, Obama's Hillary, Hollywood, all praise. I thought they would anyway. Gain notice for folksy rebukes of Trump and support for progressive policies. Now, it's Waltz. There he is. 71% have never heard of him. That's not a bad thing if you're them. And then race to define. So now a couple things about this. And so you see both parties are essentially playing to the Midwest. And by the Midwest, I think this is an interesting pick. I think it's an interesting pick. Boy, they really seem to like that governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro. But look at where the Democrat Party is now. The Democrat Party, the Harris people had to weigh what would be the reaction amongst a large base of the Democrat Party if we pick a Jewish running mate with the governor of Pennsylvania, who is, supportive of Israel. That's how far the Democrat Party has gone. Think of that for a minute. Where then Harris was like, I don't think we can pick, a Jewish person for the ticket, or a third or half of the party will erupt. So now you look at President Trump chose J.D. Vance. And I mean, by all accounts, he's not taking hold the way, I don't know, I think they thought he would. I get it. At the end of the day, I know the whole thing. People vote top of the ticket. But a balanced ticket, it's not the worst thing. And I think in some ways it can help. But let's just talk about J.D. Vance for a moment. I mean, his job, really why they picked him, is to deliver Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So now The governor of Minnesota. So JD Vance, it's not that he's doing terrible, but he's not. I don't know. I think the whole pick, President Trump picked him after the assassination. Don Jr. was really all for JD Vance. We know Tucker Carlson was all for JD Vance, but I mean, and they picked him under the guise of, this guy is going to deliver us Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. Now, in some sense, it's not fair, because when President Trump was making his selection, they looked at the ticket as Biden at the top, and then it's going to be JD Vance against Harris to try to carve that out. Now it's a different equation. Now Harris is at the top, and this is an interesting pick. This guy from Minnesota. I don't think, I know. Listen, he admits, Minneapolis and Minnesota. I've been there. I could never live there. I mean, it's not cold in the wintertime. It's freezing below zero cold in the wintertime. And it's a pretty good amount of time of the year. Again, supposedly right now, there are, one thing I'll say, the Minnesota, there's real pride there. This guy has really helped turn Minnesota into a lot of progressive policies, But even he has admitted, and some of his vulnerability may be how he handled the summer of 2020 with George Floyd, where, I mean, come on, they destroyed the Minneapolis police station and all the rioters and looters, and supposedly the governor, who I don't really know that much about, but he has said, that we could use a do-over, a mulligan on that one. But you can't deny he's got an interesting background. He does. And if this guy, who's 60, a lot of times voters lean towards, depending on how old, but the older person, and he was in the military, so was JD. He was also a high school teacher, he was a high school football coach. This guy, Walz, aside from his very progressive policies, and without question, this is the most progressive ticket I think the country has seen probably since Mondale and Geraldine Ferraro. But this guy, he seems, and I know it's cliche, but he does seem comfortable in his own skin. And I think a problem for JD Vance is he's still trying to figure out, the guy's 20 years older, and he's been in Congress, and he's been the governor, and he's actually been, I judge people on whether or not they can win elections. This guy keeps winning elections. So, I don't think, is he going to affect the vote nationwide? I don't think so, but I don't think they need him to do that. I think now it seems they're really counting on Shapiro, although bridesmaid, Harris must feel that Shapiro can deliver Pennsylvania. If she can't win Pennsylvania, there's not a lot to talk about. So you wonder if she has developed a rapport with Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, who, by the way, supposedly Hollywood loves the guy, pretty impressive guy, that she has some rapport with him of, I'd love to choose you for VP. I can't right now. We'll put you in the cabinet. I'll give you whatever you want, or if you want to stay as governor, blah, blah, blah. But I need you to help me deliver Pennsylvania. That's tough. But as they've described him, this Democrat governor of Pennsylvania, now he's really like a national name, and he's on the radar, and there's going to be profiles on him and so forth. He's, as they say, they've convinced him anyway, that he's the future of the Democrat Party, future star of the party, someday could run for president. But I wonder if Harris and her people talked to him and said, I need the Midwest, and I think the governor of Minnesota can really help me get Wisconsin and Michigan. So I'll say this, it's not I know, and I saw some of the coverage on Fox, and again, his progressive policies are his progressive policies, but I think you have to weigh: is Harris, Waltz, is that a stronger ticket than Biden Harris? And I think, by all accounts, Biden was really dragging down the ticket. And Team Trump, I think they really believed and they had every reason to believe, by the way, that they had the matchup set and who they were going to get. And it was going to be Biden Harris. And now it's not Biden Harris. And they need to pivot. It's really her. I don't think this Waltz, the governor of Minnesota, I don't think he hurts her. But I agree with those that you wonder just how much he could help her, unless they're really just looking for help in a couple of different states. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists. Call them today, 401-949-3220. Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists. You can find them online at greenvillefoothandankle.com. They're located right in the Smithfield Medical Center, Route 5 in Smithfield. And at Greenville Foot and Ankle, they have 3 board-certified podiatrists that are right there. They use the latest technologies in foot and ankle medicine. They make same-day or next-day appointments for your convenience. They take all health insurance, and they perform all aspects of foot care: skin conditions, bunions, hammer toe. They treat injuries like fractures and sprains, digital x-ray on site. The thing about Greenville Foot and Ankle, and again, you can call them at 401-949-3220. If you have foot pain, if you go and see them, they will treat you. They will help you with it. Don't accept having foot pain is not normal. It doesn't have to be that way. Not if you contact Greenville Foot and Ankle, 401-949-3220. So I know that, and I want to go through some of the headlines. And I know the Trump people are going to, and admittedly so, I don't agree with this guy's policies, but you can't ignore this was not. It's not like she picked AOC, right? She certainly didn't pick Gina Raimondo. I think there's room for 2 women on the ticket. Apparently, Harris doesn't feel that way. You got to wonder who's in the background, though, and really, pushed her in this direction. Because, like a lot of people, I thought it was going to be that governor of Pennsylvania. I want to see some of this has reached the, Waltz at Paisley Park to sign bill to rename a stretch of Minnesota highway the Prince Rogers Nelson Memorial Highway last year, after Prince. So now this, I think, is interesting. This is a story, and I was just mentioning it. Josh Shapiro may have been too pro-Israel and too Jewish for the Democrats. Now think of that. Think of the voters on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Think of the voters on Long Island. I mean, Shapiro may have been too pro-Israel and too Jewish for the Democrats. I mean, a lot of people did. I really thought that that's who she was going to choose, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. In the weeks leading up, Shapiro emerged as the front runner. There were reports, this is according to Breitbart, there were reports of internal rebellions within the Democrat Party, largely due to strong pro-Israel views, which included skepticism of peace talks. There was a progressive revolt last night over Shapiro's VP. Several White House staffers went all in on Palestine, openly threatening to quit. One donor threatening to withhold millions. Wow. One observer noted, on paper, the choice of VP should be obvious. That's what I thought. Shapiro's very popular governor, key swing state, very similar views as other leading VP contenders, but he also happens to be Jewish. That's all the current campaign is motivated by. It's emphasizing a large portion of the Dem base has a serious anti-Semitism problem. I think that sounds accurate. The problem became so severe, Democrat Jewish lawmakers began speaking out. From Axios, campaign to scuttle Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro as Democrat vice president prospect over his support for Israel is facing pushback from Jewish members of Congress across the political spectrum. But look what that tells you. That, that is true, as a matter of fact. The Massachusetts Representative Jake Auchincloss, scolded what he called the overly online left for attacking Shapiro over his Jewish faith and support for Israel. Some Democrats openly accuse Shapiro's opponents of anti-Semitism. Well, they're about as close as you can be. They're about as close as you can be. Here's another post that was put out. Josh Shapiro should not, under any circumstance, apologize for his views on Israel to further his career with the Democrat Party. Well, but that's what the party has become. That's what, in many ways, the party has become, which is that's who they're listening to. That's who is making, so many of decisions for the party. So, but Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, this is exciting experience ticket Americans be proud of. See, I still believe that the problem happens to be Harris at the top of the ticket. This guy, her VP choice, Waltz, he might actually be a better candidate for president. Now, obviously he's not, and she's the president. You know what else I want to just mention at 12:35 that I do think it's interesting. It's not a huge talking point, but boy, if you listen to some of the interviews that Nancy Pelosi's doing right now, Biden is not even talking to her. Biden is not talking to her, and they've been friends for 40 years. President Biden, it sure sounds he feels that she basically orchestrated a campaign to push him out. So think about that for a moment. Hey, folks, I want to tell you about my friend Paul Staskavich. Paul Staskavich. Don't forget about Stephen the mechanic. What am I talking about? Valari Motors. Valari Motors, 1003 Park Avenue in Cranston. Great prices, great vehicles, tremendous service. Valari Motors in Cranston, New England's #1 dealer in pre-owned Volvo sales. And don't forget about service. That's the key. When you have someone as talented as Stephen, he gets to know your vehicles inside and out, and what a great team they make. Family owned and operated. They take great pride. Paul has many of the same customers. And then when they're ready to get a new vehicle, they bring it in and then they go for another vehicle. There's a reason why 27 years of specialized Volvo sales and service, Valari Motors. Hey, and also they want your vehicle. Get the best value for your trade-in. 1003 Park Avenue in Cranston. They specialize in Volvo sales and service. They stock all types of Volvos and Ford trucks. Stop in and see them at Valari Motors. You can call them at 401-942-9568. Stop in and see Paul. And also, listen, Stephen is an elite mechanic at Valari Motors. Well, folks, good afternoon. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. So what's going to happen? Harris will definitely get some play. I don't know what's going to happen with J.D. Vance. I'd be inclined to say right now nothing's going to happen. But I think it's a fair question. I think it's a fair question about if this is what it comes down to. If President Trump knew that it was going to be Harris at the top, and then now this governor of Minnesota, Waltz, which I think of. soon as I heard the name Waltz, I think of The Godfather, right? He ran the movie studio, Waltz Productions. The whole thing. And he tells off Tom Hagen. Waltz, made her a star. She could dance and sing and everything else. And then she makes me look ridiculous. Waltz. A couple other stories I just want to mention. Folks, I don't understand exactly what happened in Lincoln. And I say this as someone, father of 3 children, granted older now, but this woman from Foster facing charges. Lincoln police say she left her 7-month-old inside a hot vehicle on Sunday. Sunday was a hot day. Sunday was a muggy day. Police called the Lincoln Mall, 5 o'clock. 7 months old, left alone inside a parked Ford Ranger. Infant was in a rear-facing car seat. Only the passenger window was slightly open. Doors were locked. Vehicle was turned off. No key in ignition. Police broke into the truck, finding the temperature inside was 84 degrees. Baby had a flushed, sweaty appearance. After moving the child into an air-conditioned cruiser, police say 55-year-old Lori Carter walked up carrying several brown paper bags. She admitted to leaving the 7-month-old in the truck while she went to get some egg rolls from Asia Grill and other items from Ocean State Job Lot. Told police she'd been gone for about 20 minutes. Usually leaves the car running. Couldn't find her spare key. According to police, she believes she didn't do anything wrong, claiming that leaving the windows cracked was enough. She was arrested, charged with cruelty or neglect of a child. Now, she's 55. The child is 7 months old. Not sure I fully get that, and maybe there are more details to it, but it just strikes me of, I couldn't find my other. Well, then you don't do that. I mean, if you're only going for a couple of different things, okay, so maybe the child's gonna wake up, but I mean, we're still at a point where they have to explain. She's not 17. It's a 7-month-old child left in the car, windows up, just little cracks. Oh, I didn't realize she did anything wrong. Folks, it's so distressing, I think, is the best word for it. Like, what are you talking about? You don't leave a child. Like, you don't leave an animal in a car like that. I don't understand. I mean, is she a grandmother? She's 55. The child's 7 months old. Possibly the mother, but was she watching the child? It's like, I don't get the whole thing. And as far as some items at Job Lot, okay, you're hungry and you have the infant. You have to don't you call the restaurant and say, I'm right outside and I have an infant in the car, or you pick another restaurant. Like, I just find that someone like that is so fortunate that something didn't happen to that little infant. But, and there she is brooding. She didn't think she did anything wrong. Well, it says mother. So, but they identify her as 55 years old. I mean, isn't that a little old? No? Little old? To have a child? Maybe not. 55-year-old Lori Carter walked up. 55 years old. You deliver a child to the world and then leave the child. Sunday was hot. Leave the child in the car. I don't understand it, because no one understands it, is what I'm really trying to say. I mean, there's no excuse for anything like that. Folks, speaking of no excuses, there's no excuse if you are having a problem with your roof, or if you're exploring getting a new roof. Contact Andrew at Royal Exteriors. Royal Exteriors Roofing, Siding. Call today. They're right in Johnston. 401 533 9989. 401 533 9989. Royal Exteriors. Tremendous service, tremendous knowledge. You deal directly with the owner, Andrew. No high price salesman with commission. Fair prices, expert workmanship. Call for your free estimate today. Royal Exteriors, where the customer is king or queen. 401 533 9989. 401 533 9989. And remember, if your roof was damaged due to a recent storm, many times the insurance will cover it. Contact Andrew. He'll walk you through it. 401 533 9989 for Royal Exteriors. Well, folks, good afternoon. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. Kamala Harris selects Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as running mate. In tapping Walz, who is considered a dark horse contender, Harris passed over high-profile Democrats, such as Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro and Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. You know, all of that is true, but supposedly this guy, regardless of what you think of his policies, he's been described as an interesting individual. And then maybe, now what I'm hearing, I would not care for a lot of his progressive policies. It doesn't mean he's not an interesting guy to meet. And it also doesn't mean he doesn't have an interesting background. So, but he has a lot going for him. 60-year-old Democrat, military veteran, plain-spoken television appearances after the days after Biden decided not to seek a second term. 60 years old, military veteran, liberal policy in Minnesota. I didn't realize how liberal it is. And one of the few states to protect fans buying tickets online for Taylor Swift concerts and other live events. I didn't know that. Some things about Tim Walz. It'd be hard to find a more vivid representative of the American heartland than Walz. Born in Nebraska, 3,500 people northwest of Omaha. He joined the Army National Guard and became a teacher in Nebraska. He and his wife moved to southern Minnesota in the 1990s. He taught social studies and coached football, Mankato West High School, including for the 1999 team that won the first of the state's 4 state championships. He still points to his union membership there. He served 24 years in the Army National Guard before retiring from Field Artillery Battalion as a command sergeant major, one of the military's highest enlisted ranks. In his race for Congress, he upset a Republican incumbent. 2006, he won a largely rural southern Minnesota congressional district against 6-term rep, capitalized on voter anger against President George W. Bush during 6 terms in the House. So think of that. He was 6-0 running for Congress. So that's 6 terms, 12 years. What did he champion? Veteran issues. He's also shown a down-to-earth side, partly through social media video posts with his daughter. One last fall showed them trying a Minnesota State Fair ride, the Slingshot, as they bantered about fair food and her being a vegetarian. While he isn't from one of the crucial blue wall states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, he's right next door. He could also ensure Minnesota stays in the hands of Democrats. Minnesota's another state, potentially, could be flipped. President Trump has portrayed Minnesota as in play, even though they hadn't elected a Republican statewide office since 2006, much like Rhode Island. A GOP presidential candidate hasn't carried the state since Nixon in 1972, but Trump has already campaigned there. In 2018, when the Democrat governor decided not to seek a third term, Walz campaigned and won the office on a one Minnesota theme. He speaks comfortably about issues that matter to voters in the Rust Belt. He's been a champion in Democrat causes. Big union guy, union organizing, workers' rights, $15 an hour minimum wage. The thing about him is he just has a unusual background for a Democrat. I think it's also interesting that this governor actually feels comfortable in the Democrat Party amongst some of them. He has an ear for soundbite politics. Walz called Republican nominee Donald Trump and running mate J.D. Vance just weird in an MSNBC interview last month. And the Democrat Governors Association, which he's the chair, amplified the point in a post on X. He later reiterated the characterization on CNN, citing Trump's repeated mentions of Hannibal Lecter from the film Silence of the Lamb. The word quickly morphed into a theme for Harris and other Democrats as a chance to be a watchword of the undoubtedly weird 2024 election. So he's the guy that started touting that. And now, if you followed the press over the past couple of weeks, they're constantly saying that J.D. Vance is weird, that Trump is weird. I've talked about it. That's how they describe them. That's how they try to break through. Again, if you say someone is weird, let's just say someone's describing a neighbor who lives in the house in the corner. I don't know. They're kind of weird. What might, what constitutes that? If you had a neighbor, just think if you had a neighbor who is weird, maybe they come and go at odd hours. Maybe they don't open the door at Halloween. I don't know. Maybe they're just a little odd or weird. Doesn't mean they're bad people, doesn't mean they're criminals, or maybe if someone said, don't you have an uncle who lives, an uncle, whatever, an aunt who lives somewhere, and if the person said, yeah, but they're just kind of weird, we don't talk to them a lot. Again, it doesn't mean it's obviously derogatory, but no one would want to be, he's a great guy, he's really weird. No one would describe that as a positive. Folks, I want to remind you about FenceRI.com. Call them today, 401-732-0555. FenceRI.com. They are the premier fence and deck contractor known for quality, communication, and value. FenceRI.com. So whether it's for a pet or pool fencing or maybe just privacy, security, $200 discount if you mention our show. $200 off. Think of that. Wood deck construction, licensed and insured, 5-star rating on Google. You can depend. Put them in the mix. FenceRI.com, the most Rhode Island name. FenceRI.com, or call them at 401-732-0555. Well, folks, good afternoon. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. So the Harris pick, this governor of Minnesota, listen, come on. It's definitely the news of the day. Harris, the vice president, still has not done any interviews. I think one of the reasons why is because she's uncomfortable about President Biden stepping out. I think that's one of the reasons. As I've said, I don't find her particularly impressive. I don't think voters are going to embrace her. I don't. I don't think there's a lot of substance to the vice president, but the media, people are noticing that she has not done one interview since President Biden, announced he wasn't going to run, and now all of a sudden she's the nominee. I also want to mention, and we are going to talk about it tomorrow with our legal analyst, attorney Tim Dodd, when Socket City Council votes to send findings on land deal to law enforcement, City Council voted last night for an independent report, last year's secretive land deal. This is Tom Mooney in the Journal, involving former Mayor Hunt, Lisa Baldelli Hunt, to law enforcement, possible investigation. The report, conducted by lawyer, former U.S. Attorney Aaron Weissman, concluded that the mayor purposely hid the city's purchase of 5 vacant acres owned by her longtime real estate associate, Raymond Bork, at 5 times its assessed value, in violation of the city charter. So let me reread that just one more time. She purposely hid the purchase of the 5 vacant acres at 5 times assessed value. The vote came in a meeting started with residents voicing outrage over the report finding, and the city's planning director accused of aiding in the cover-up as nothing short of corruption. I don't know. Sure sounds like it. Former councilman sees lies, deceit, arrogance, lack of integrity, fraud, corruption. In short, this report of lies, deceit, arrogance, lack of integrity, fraud. Former city council member voted to remove Baldelli Hunt from office. Hey, who knows that this thing then starts to really take a fast track with legal wrongdoing. Said John Breen, criminal lawyer, state rep, this stench, literally and figuratively, has become synonymous with Woonsocket. Referring to a remark Baldelli Hunt made last fall when she said she wouldn't let others define her legacy with allegations swirling around the land deal, Breen said the only person who was assured of her now tainted legacy was her. City Council President John Ward, candidate for mayor, I believe this represents criminal acts. Wow, and needs further investigation. A longtime public official had witnessed too many public corruption cases. Elected officials, folks, here they go again. The purchased last October between the former mayor and Bork of Attleboro had been in the works since 2019, with 1.1 million asking price, even though the price was 5 times more than the property's assessed value. Weissman concluded after interviewing 30 past current city officials. In his report, he said the mayor's actions raised questions whether the transaction was for purposes other than the best interests of the citizens of Woonsocket. That seems easy to answer. The mayor, resigned in November after this whole thing surfaced. She cited health reasons. Both the former mayor and Bork, who's in his 90s, refused to be interviewed about the land deal. Now, they're investigating it, and they have a chance to talk to them. Neither one of them would talk to him. City charter requires any purchase over $100,000 to go to the city council. Weissman found Baldelli Hunt was determined that no one other than perhaps a few in the city planning department learned of the transaction. Wow. Hey, and it goes well over $1 million. City's former planning director told Weissman he attended the meeting in the summer of 2019. He witnessed a heated discussion between Baldelli Hunt and Bork over what the Mendon Road property would be used for. So Bork wanted to use the property for the development of deluxe duplex properties, while the mayor strongly, very loudly pushed back, stating such duplex development was not what they, meaning she, had agreed upon. Baldelli Hunt said she wanted to build affordable housing for the elderly. What a mess. And then you have, on Monday, the mayor, been leading the city since she stepped down, announced, how about the fact that then you have someone step down who had been the planning director. Wow. The mayor planned to meet with him on Monday to discuss his role in the land deal. You know, folks, these land deals, it's certainly, you go back, if you've been around for a while, there was that famous Cranston land deal where there was someone that had some land and couldn't get zoning for it to be commercial, and then sold it to Dennis Dupree. And in one day, Dennis Dupree was able to get zoning for it and then flipped it to a Texas developer and made million all in the course of an afternoon, and all because, as a matter of fact, that they had the inside track and connections to be able to pull that off. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by J. Perry Paving. Call them today, 401 732 1730. If you're thinking of having your driveway paved or parking lot, call J. Perry Paving today, 401 732 1730. Letter J, J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service, free estimate. And remember, no one's better to veterans than J. Perry Paving. They have a special package for veterans. Call today, 401 732 1730. Letter J. It's J. Perry Paving. Well, folks, good afternoon. 12:59 on this stormy Monday. By the way, it's going to be a stormy week. We're going to have to wait to see on Road Patrol Facebook Live later, simply because it's sure the forecast looks like the potential for very heavy rain. And it's one thing you go to a scene and I can't get cover. It's another you're trying to ride around, and that we've tried it. It just doesn't work. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to break for the 1 o'clock news. We have another full hour of the John DePietro show to go. And again, repeating the big news of the day, Vice President Harris has chosen the governor of Minnesota. The match is now set to be her running mate. You can hear about that and then a lot more next hour. AM 1380, 99.9 FM. We're back on the other side after the 1 o'clock news.